Here's a finance question you should understand the ins and out of every time. Which is typically higher, the cost of debt or the cost of equity? Let's break this down. What is the difference between debt and equity? They're both forms of capital, but debt is usually where you get a loan, which means you borrow money to pay it back with interest at a later date. And equity is when you issue shares or ownership in your company in return for cash, which you usually use for investments or increasing your company's output. Now, when it says which one costs more, what this really means is which investors, your debt investors or your equity investors, are looking for the highest rate of return. And let's logically think, which one is going to be more risky? Usually equity, because debt is an obligatory payment that the company is going to owe whoever issues the debt, right? Like you can't just not pay your credit card bill. That's also why debt investments like a US bond will usually pay you a little bit less than investing in an equity company, because initially you're taking on a lot less risk investing in bonds versus stocks. We can go from 100 to 0. Now, on top of that, if we think back to the income statement, we have earnings before interest and taxes. Debt also means a company has to pay interest, and interest is tax deductible. So the cost of debt is usually going to be cheaper than the cost of equity because, like we said, it creates tax deductibility, also known as a tax shield for people. And two, because you do legally are obligated to pay back the debt. So if you're a debt investor, you know you're going to get your money back. Whereas with equity, you're not guaranteed anything back at all. And if we reverse engineer it, it makes sense why an equity investor would want a higher rate of return because they are taking more risk. They might not get anything back. So if they're going to invest in you, they want to see outsized returns to a debt holder who didn't take nearly as much risk as they did. Now, with that being kept in mind, if a company is over levered or has an insane amount of debt, then the cost of debt is going to be a little bit higher because now as a debt investor, you're taking into a higher likelihood that this company might default and then not be able to pay out its legal obligations.